News just coming in. The Indo-American joint editorial has now been released. We're joined live by Editor Strategic Affairs Gaurav Sawant from Washington DC. Gaurav, what details do you have with you?
Well, this joint editorial has just been released, Vedika, and the byline is very interesting. If I could point it out, this byline is by Narendra Modi and Barack Obama. Narendra Modi is Prime Minister of India. Barack Obama is the President of the United States of America, says this editorial in the Washington Post. And it says that two nations are committed to democracy, liberty, diversity and enterprise. India and the United States are bound by common values and mutual interest. Now, this goes on to talk about their shared vision for each other and for the world. It says that they've shaped India and the United States have shaped a positive trajectory of human history, and through joint efforts, our natural and unique partnership can help shape international security and peace for the years to come. So this takes away, from the joint vision document that came out yesterday from White House. This goes on to say, and this is Narendra Modi's mark, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's mark in this joint editorial, ties between the United States and India are rooted in a shared desire of our citizens for justice and equality. When Swami Vivekananda presented Hinduism as a world religion, he did so in 1893 at World's Parliament of Religions in Chicago. When Martin Luther King Jr. sought to end the discrimination and prejudice against African Americans, he was inspired by Mahatma Gandhi's non-violent teachings. Gandhiji himself drew upon the writings of Henry David Thoreau on this. He also goes on to say, as nations, we've partnered over decades to deliver progress to our people. The people of India remember the strong foundations of our cooperation. The food production increases of the Green Revolution and the Indian Institute of Technology are among the many products of our collaboration. Today, our partnership is robust, reliable and enduring, and it is expanding. Our relationship involves more bilateral collaboration than ever before, not just at the federal level, but also at the levels of state and local level, between our two militaries, private sectors and civil society. Indeed, as much has happened that in 2000, then Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee could declare that we are natural allies. After many years of growing cooperation, since on any given day our students work together on research projects, our scientists develop cutting-edge technology, and senior officials consult closely on global issues. Our militaries conduct joint exercises in air, on land and at sea, and our space programs engage in unprecedented areas of cooperation. This joint editorial, Vedika, talks about how India and the United States are natural allies, cooperate in every field, leading us from Earth to Mars. And in this partnership, the Indian-American community has been a vibrant living bridge between us. Its success has been the truest reflection of the vitality of our people, the value of America's open society, and the strength of what we do when we join together. Still, the true potential of our relationship has yet to be fully realized. The advent of a new government in India is a natural opportunity to broaden and deepen our relationship. With the reinvigorated level of ambition and greater confidence, we can go beyond modest and conventional goals. It is time to set a new agenda, one that realizes concrete benefits for our citizens. This will be rewarding ways to expand our collaboration in trade, investment and technology that harmonizes with India's ambitious development agenda while sustaining the United States as the global engine of growth. When we meet today in Washington, we will discuss ways in which we can boost manufacturing and expand affordable renewable energy while sustainably securing the future of our common environment. We will discuss ways in which our businesses, scientists and governments can partner as India works to improve the quality, reliability and availability of basic services, especially for the poorest of its citizens. In this, the United States stands ready to assist. An immediate area of concrete support is the Clean India campaign, where we will leverage private and civil society innovations, expertise and technology to improve sanitation and hygiene throughout India. While our shared effort will benefit our own people, our partnership aspires to be a larger than merely the sum of its parts. As nations, as people, we aspire for a better future for all, one in which our strategic partnership also produces benefits for the world at large.
Yes.
While India benefits from the growth generated by US investments and technical partnership, the United States benefits from a stronger, more prosperous India. In turn, the region and the world benefit from the greater stability and security that our friendship creates. We remain committed to the larger effort to integrate South Asia and connect it with markets and people in Central and Southeast Asia.
If I could just interrupt, my question is that this editorial, this joint editorial by President Obama and Prime Minister Modi really paving the way for the big summit this evening.
This indeed does. In fact, that summit starts in a short while from now. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be leaving Blair House to go to White House, and this one-on-one would be very, very substantive. We were speaking to our sources in the Prime Minister's office, and they said, you know, the meeting that the two had yesterday, the get-to-know-each-other meeting, was very significant because both of them were actually outsiders to the power establishment in their respective countries, and today both of them are the ultimate insiders. There's a lot of hope, there's burden of hope riding on both. One, of course, in his second term, the first, the other who's just come into power with a massive mandate. So they're sharing notes, they're comparing systems, they're both very keyed into technology and will use technology to the best ability for their own people, for the people of each other's countries, and as they put it, for the benefit of world at large. Vedika.
Right, Gaurav, I'm now going to toss over to Shiv Arur, who will be continuing with our non-stop coverage on Modi's visit to America.
Well, it's an editorial that really carries forward a message of mutual cooperation, of a defining partnership, really, that the US has described the Indo-US relationship as for the 21st century going forward. Gaurav Sawant continues to be with us. Narendra Modi, the Indian Prime Minister in Washington, D.C., will begin those summit-level bilateral discussions in a very short while from now. Gaurav, this has been an amazingly, stunningly eventful visit. Over 40 meetings for Narendra Modi spread over just 3 days. In each of those meetings, there's been a huge amount of expectation about what's going to happen, what the response is going to be, whether Narendra Modi will say anything specific. But this is the big one, isn't it, Gaurav, where he will hold specific meetings with Barack Obama. And while this particular editorial gives you a kind of overall flavor, a body language indicator as such for both the leaders as they go forward, the meeting, the discussions themselves are likely to be much more substantive and much more specific.
Very substantive, very specific, free and frank, and on issues that impact not just India and the United States, but impact the world. Shiv, you and I cover terror and counter-terror. While economy was a very important aspect of this discussion that took place in New York with the business heads, its strategy, that's massive here in Washington, D.C. While economy and investment remain very big, while technology denial remains very big, clean energy and sanitation remain big, its strategy, it's combating global terror that the two heads of very powerful governments, the biggest and the oldest democracies, they will be talking about. And from what my sources tell me, there will be something substantive. Now, US President Barack Obama wants Indian help to combat the threat of ISIL. It may not be help that he seeks in terms of boots on ground or aircraft or bombers or fighters, but it may be help in any other way, from intelligence sharing to very important aspect, Shiv, is how do you de-radicalize elements who are being radicalized across the world? This is a problem. ISIL, for some reason, has been attracting people, whether in the United Kingdom, in India, in Pakistan. There are some, of course, just a very small number in India have also joined ISIL ranks. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi made it very clear, we are the land of Gautam Buddha and Mahatma Gandhi. Al-Qaeda will fail here. But de-radicalization is very high on the agenda of Barack Obama Narendra Modi talks, Shiv.
Well, a lot of expectations, the burden of hope, as you very rightly, sort of pronounced it, Gaurav. We're going to have to see really what happens at that meeting. The body language is there, the intent is there, the two leaders get along, there were lots of smiles, there's a great deal of warmth. The joint editorial really puts out a sort of very, very positive atmosphere as far as both countries going forward is concerned. But we're going to have to see whether the substantive takeaways from the talks really meet the expectations from what is seen as something to have the potential to give a booster shot to that defining partnership of the 21st century. Gaurav, stay with me. After impressing Madison Square Garden with his charisma, Modi's next destination was the White House and the highly anticipated meeting with the Obamas. And when the moment finally came, Obama stumped Modi with his words, "Game show." The two leaders bonded over politics and strategy, sealing a stamp on stronger Indo-US ties. Here's what happened at the White House.
The moment that's been in the making for months now, Modi's first meeting with US President Barack Obama. And Obama went all out to ensure that the reception was warm, welcoming Modi with the Gujarati "Kem Chho."
He responded, "Thank you very much, Mr. President." क्योंकि उन्होंने उनकी ज़बान में कहा था और प्रधानमंत्री ने प्रेसिडेंट ओबामा को अपनी ज़बान में कहा.
Modi led a delegation of 10 people, including Sushma Swaraj, the National Security Advisor, and the Indian Ambassador to the United States. The US side was represented by Vice President Joe Biden, Secretary of State John Kerry, and the National Security Advisor. And right outside in the lawns near the White House, India stamping its presence once again.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has dinner with US President Obama. There's a special treat for the two of them. Unprecedented scenes in the lawns just outside the White House. Garba and Bhangra are being done. The Gujarati community of Maryland involved in Garba and the Punjabis are involved in Bhangra.
The significance of the Modi visit underlined in the Indo-US vision document. Washington setting the tone for the changed bilateral ties, calling for a larger multilateral responsibility for India.
There was a feeling that that India-US relationship is amongst the most important relationships both felt in the world today, and therefore it was incumbent on both of them to work towards strengthening and deepening this relationship.
The 90-minute dinner diplomacy ahead of the all-crucial summit-level talks ended on a philosophical note, with Modi gifting Mahatma Gandhi's take on the Bhagavad Gita to Obama.
The Indo-US relationship is a complex one, evolving one. To evolve a full-blown strategic relationship won't happen overnight, and there are clearly several ticklish issues that remain to be solved. But step one has been a positive one that has been taken by the two leaders. And clearly here today from Washington, on a really lovely autumn evening, the signs are that India and the United States are ready to reboot their relationship. For headlines today from outside the White House in Washington, D.C., this is Rajdeep Sardesai.
Let's go straight across to Washington, D.C. Joining us live is consulting editor with the India Today Group, Rajdeep Sardesai, who's been reporting from Washington, D.C. He's seen all the celebrations in the run-up to the summit meeting that's going to be happening in a very short while from now. It's all decks cleared for those discussions, Rajdeep. The warmth, the handshake, the exchange of gifts, all the cordiality is there. The joint editorial is out. The tone has been set. The stage is set for those discussions now.
Absolutely, Shiv. I think the critical element of this joint statement, I think, is a recognition by both sides that while they have number of differences, there are huge areas of commonality. And I think what this joint statement is doing is focusing on what can be best described as the low-hanging fruit, the areas of convergence. Let me give you a good example of how this joint statement is taking the first step forward. It says the United States stands to an immediate area of concrete support is the Clean India campaign, where we will leverage private and civil society innovation, expertise and technology to improve sanitation and hygiene throughout India. Now, this is an unexceptionable area. This is an easy area where the United States and India can converge, the area of sanitation. And I think by focusing on sanitation, which is going to be Narendra Modi's big ticket item come October 2 when he launches his Swachh Bharat Abhiyan campaign. The United States is looking for those low-hanging fruit, those areas of convergence where it is possible in a sense for the two countries to show the enormous potential that they have for convergence. So if you look at the entire statement, while they speak about sharing intelligence, counter-terrorism, law enforcement cooperation, work jointly to maintain freedom of navigation and lawful commerce across the seas, I think what is significant is both sides are recognizing that there are differences.
Yes.
They are looking for areas of commonality and thereby strike the partnership in these areas of commonality in the hope that that will enable them to really take the relationship incrementally forward. Don't pitch the expectations too high on day one. Let's look at the low-hanging fruit. Let's look at areas of convergence. Yes, there are legal hurdles, whether it's with nuclear technology transfer or opening up of markets, access to markets. Let's look at the other areas where we can actually find a working relationship. And I think the word which is being used here in Washington is well taken. This is an attempt to reboot or reset a relationship which in the last 24 months has gone through its ups and downs. So I think both the leaders have understood, have shown a reassuring pragmatism in this statement. I don't see the sort of brave talk or the bold talk of the past. I see a genuine desire to look for the low-hanging fruit. Take a look at exploration of space.
Yes.
We both have satellites orbiting Mars, tells its own story. The promise of a better tomorrow is not solely for Indians and Americans. So space is an area where you can work together. Sanitation is an area where you can work together. Will this lead to a full-blown strategic partnership? I think that the two sides are going to try and work towards incrementally. I think there's a recognition, Shiv, and one final point here, that America knows that Narendra Modi is now here to stay. So this is not a one-day match. This is not a one-night stand between the two leaders. This is a step towards a deeper relationship that the two leaders will have to strike, of the kind that Obama very successfully did with Dr. Manmohan Singh. Now, that relationship needs to be reset with the new leadership. And I thought it's important that they invoked history in the context of Martin Luther and Gandhi. I think, it always is important for two democracies who've gone through ups and downs in their relationship to find their areas of commonality. But it's a good start. So on a relatively benign autumn morning, it's good to see that the two sides have come out with a almost unprecedented joint editorial. This comes a day after, of course, Barack Obama greeted Manmohan Singh with a "Kem Cho," how are you, when he came to the dinner. So it's a good start. I think the atmospherics are right. I don't expect a major breakthrough in substantive terms on the more tricky issues. But certainly, I think the two sides have almost devised what you could call, Shiv, a minimum common program. Much like coalitions devise a minimum common program, I think India and the US are looking for a minimum common program of the areas of commonality, whether it's space, whether it's sanitation, and then move to the more contentious issues of trade, technology transfer, and certainly terrorism. Is an area where the two countries know they have much in common and they can face this challenge jointly.